Good evening, Hoedspruit.
Good evening.
Just to echo Carl, thanks to you, Sarah, and all of the team just for hosting and having me this evening. I'm going to be taking us on a bit of a technology safari this evening. For quite a while, being born and raised in Durban, my wife and I, we actually moved to Hoedspruit in January last year. And this morning, on the way back from gym, got to see wild dogs in the Hoedspruit Wildlife Estate. I mean, what kind of blessed life is this? And then last Friday, porcupines and leopards. We are very fortunate, and it's quite fun to come this evening to talk about nature on tap. And it's, I guess, a fitting name with the business of starting up in nature. Now, being born and raised in KwaZulu-Natal, having a Greek South African family, it was an absolute privilege to grow up in a space that was very integrated with community, with my love of nature, and having a family that just always took us on some really remarkable tours across this continent. So often we fly over to the European lands or to America or to wherever, and we fly right over this continent. Greece is pretty good, I might be biased, but of course, yeah, we're very spoiled. And just from a very young age, I feel privileged to have grown up in KwaZulu-Natal and have had Zululand as my inspiration. And part of that is, for some reason, I like to put myself in difficult positions. I decided that I would go do my time in the Greek military. So I spent time in the service. It sounds a lot more hardcore than it actually was. I didn't come out like a Spartan with a ripped 8-pack. I just learned how to drink coffees really well. But really, the point here is that I just wanted to go here because I felt inspired to understand discipline, to understand structure, to understand who I am in this journey of life. And there were many times that I called my mom and cried and said, "Why am I here? Please can I come home for one of your meals?" But the reality is that it was the beginning of something. And that beginning took me to a place in East Africa. Now, prior to this, I spent a decade living and working in London, but I always had a pull towards this continent, a pull that I just wanted to discover what is happening where nature and people are meeting in some of the more hard-to-reach places. And so I went and taught at a school, not this specific school, but a school outside of Arusha in Tanzania. And during that time, there were many lessons that I learned, but one was, I was just blown away by how such a small contribution made such a big impact. I gave this teacher that I'm standing next to about 3,000 Tanzanian shillings, and she burst out crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I've offended her, I'm so sorry. But she actually said, you know what you've done? You've just fed all of these kids for the next month, just with a small amount of money. I mean, 3,000 shillings, someone can do the conversion, but it's really not a lot. And I was like, okay, that's fascinating. The second piece was after doing some time here, because this whole trip was about 7 months in totality, I also moved to Botswana, and I joined a group called Elephants for Africa. And there on the Botetia River, which borders the Makadikadi salt pans, I worked with this group thinking, I love elephants. I'm going to get to research them, collar them, study them. They are like my spirit animal. We didn't end up doing any of that. All of the time was helping communities to coexist, to mitigate elephant crops or elephants raiding their crops. And in 2019, in April, when I was there, it was one of the most significant droughts that they had in the last 20 years. So there was no water, and as agriculturalist communities, there was a limited amount of food because of the lack of water. And Botswana, as some of you may know, has a lot of elephants. And so there was a very simple solution that we were going around and teaching and training communities on, not me personally, but the team from Elephants for Africa. And then it was teaching community members how to grow chilies, harvest them, and then convert them into elephant dung, mix them with elephant dung and wood, and use those as chili bombs, which would effectively act as a natural deterrent. So when an elephant did come in the evening, they would light them and kind of throw them like a bomb or just light them at the perimeter. And it was just such a beautiful, simple technique to figure out better coexistence models. So this was another inspiration piece. And I then came up with this idea. I've been quite connected to baobab trees. And these are trees of life. And through that, I came up with the name. I was literally in London after this expedition, writing on a misty glass window coming out of a shower, and I wrote Baobab Tree. Then I was like, Baotree. So I then met this amazing individual, Tom Sylvester. He's the founder of a place called Loisaba Conservancy in the heart of Kenya, in a county called Laikipia. And it was up in this very magical land. If you haven't been, I highly recommend it. They've got a lot of melanistic leopards at the moment. That's where you might see a lot of people with their photography tours going up there. And it was here that I founded an idea. The idea was really, how do we incentivize communities to support their own livelihoods, to incentivize communities to support conservation outcomes, but receive a reward or a benefit for doing that. And so for 3 months at the end of 2019, pre-COVID, I went and I moved to Kenya, and I lived in Loisaba, and I had these two wonderful humans on the top right, Unita and Paul, as the community officers of Loisaba. And we had a meeting with the community, and we said, what do you need? And they requested these predator-proof bomas to protect their livestock. Predator-proof boma is a triple wire fence that will look after their cattle, their sheep, etc., and really to mitigate the high number of predations, meaning lions and hyenas killing their bank, their wealth, their livestock as pastoralist communities. So for 3 months, we created these tasks for the community. Please call me, this is pre-Baotree and pre-any tech, but please call me anytime there's a human-wildlife conflict, you're doing invasive species removal. And I ended up having surgery like 3 years ago for back surgery, but we were literally bouncing around Kenya for quite a while, going door to door to different community areas to validate that whenever someone called us, hey, there's a hyena that killed our goats, or we've removed this amount of invasive plant, we went and just to validate that with GPS, the kind of manually old school. And it was fascinating because you'll see the picture on the right, there's a couple of dead sheep there. Just one rainy evening, everyone's in the house under the corrugated roof, and a hyena breaks in. These are people's livelihoods. 10 up to one moment, there was 27 goats in one evening at one homestead that were killed by one hyena that just went doof, 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 and just wiped out pretty much the whole little herd of goats. And so you can imagine the community retaliates and poisons their goats to try to take out the predators, and that's a negative ecosystem, let's say, trait, because then vultures and everything else comes and eats the poison, and we know the negative consequence of that. Plus the removal of invasive plants. So this was a very small MVP, minimum viable product of testing idea. Like, how can we establish trust with the community to support conservation outcomes? And instead of providing aid, how do we create an exchange? Data for development, information for something that they need. And so an idea was born. And that idea, Lord, did I know, or any of us know, that in 2020, COVID will become a reality. And I went back to London, and during that time in London, everything shut down. But it was an opportune time because I became obsessed with this idea. And building Baotree, I just had this deep curiosity. How do we take a system and a model where we can find a way for nature, for people, for business, and really establish layers of integrity? How do we establish trust between organizations and communities, organizations and their operations? And for me, that came in the form of Baotree. And that came in the form of data. Now, I'm going to actually show you the technology and walk you through practically how this all works. So I'm not just speaking about dreams and etherealness. So as I mentioned, the sticky part of it was, okay, we've got communities who live on the borders of really beautiful wilderness areas. And then we've also got tourism destinations that are based in some of the most beautiful, pristine, critical wilderness areas that are, I guess, our conduits to making sure that these landscapes remain intact, that the conservation work that they do, that the sustainability work that they do, and the community work that they do, they can have a way to do it better, or just at least prove it. And so I'm pretty sure we all understand the relationship between the oxpecker and the impala. It's symbiotic. And so the idea with Baotree is, how do we create symbiotic relationships between people, nature, business, and establish integrity within these ecosystems? So in saying that, we're now going to go on a bit of a journey. Now, there is a screen at the back there. There's one on the side over there. There's one behind me. I've just recorded a live demonstration how Baotree practically works. And then I'm going to talk about a couple of examples. And it's nice to see some of the teams in the room that are using our system to actually help with their operations. So within Baotree, organizations can set up projects, any type of project, whether it's tracking water, waste, energy. Then they can manage their teams within our platform. And these teams can be structured in a way that the sustainability team, I know the location of them, my sustainability team is tracking all of these projects that you can see. I'm going to just click on the environment project. And in this specific project, there's data sets. There's particular data sets that that team is tracking and collecting through our mobile application, which I'll show you shortly. But it is very customizable so that anyone tracking a project can add a team member, can add a data collector. Once someone hits add on this particular page, that person would receive an SMS to then download our mobile application. And then once they've been added, they can participate. Individuals can be included, but also receive messages through our system. So we've had teams actually deploy, we've got floods coming into the region, or there's a broken water pipe. Dimitri, can you go and fix that? There's a communication ecosystem within our tech. So someone like Don can send a message to his team to say, hey, we need to do ABC or XYZ. Can you go and do that for me? So part of this is also, I mentioned we're customizable. Whatever type of project, whatever type of data, this is just where that library is of all the different data sets. And we are effectively aiming to build Canva. If you are familiar with Canva, it's a creative tool, but to house a whole bunch of sustainability and impact data sets to inspire our clients, our partners, as to what more they can capture. So that's really what this part of the system is inspired to do, is to help people get structure around how can I collect data, be inspired around that. So I'm going to give a little sneak peek of something that's coming up soon. So we've got all this data, it's being collected by my team, and it now comes into this feed, real time, from teams behind at the kitchen, in the community area, wherever it might be, and every single data submission that comes through is trackable, verifiable, and credible. And so now I'm just zooming into a couple of records that have been submitted. Here we are on Hoedspruit, and each of these are now individual records of data that's been submitted to prove that, okay, Dimitri submitted this particular task, and this task is around waste management. Here are the metrics, how much metal, plastic, glass, and kilograms, photographic evidence, really enriching a story to help tell a story when it comes to reporting on sustainability or impact. And then there's a space where you can see your team impact. So because we're about inclusion, sometimes an organization has 50 or 200 team members participating. And so we want to show the project manager or the operations manager, how is their team performing? And then it's also taking all of that data and putting it into reports. This is a very new feature, but it just allows all of the numbers, the quantitative data. People can come and build charts off the data that they've captured for any type of project or initiative. So it really is quite I might be biased, but user-friendly, simple piece of tech. This is the first time you're seeing it, but imagine you're riding a bicycle, still got the ferry wheels on. But we have a wonderful group of team members. There's 14 of us that just guide the entire journey. And so on the other side of it, we have, do I have to click it again? The mobile app. So again, just being super simple, anyone in the team can now log into the app, select a task. There's a whole bunch of different metrics. I'm not going to get into the weeds of how the data is designed and how it's structured, but it's just super simple for someone at the kitchen who is reporting on waste that has been gone through a day and they're weighing all the waste and whatever it might be. Just super simple to upload images. There's actually one of the wild dogs, maybe a little bit too close, not actually a picture of waste. And the point of the system is that we've had to keep it simple. It works offline, so you don't need a connection. It works without internet, without Wi-Fi. And there's also a place where people can actually see how they are contributing. So there's leaderboards. We want to make data collection fun. It sounds a bit silly, but we want to make it fun so that teams can participate in gathering the information and collecting the data, see how they're contributing. And then, as I mentioned, there's this notification suite where people can see, okay, Chelsea has sent me a message and I need to go fix this broken water pipe. Thank you, I've received that. So that's Baotree at its core in today's world. And now I just want to talk about a couple of examples. So one of them is Tanda Tula. Some of you may be familiar with this brand, but really this organization is using our platform to just centralize all of their data. They are fair trade tourism certified, and there's a lot of data sets that they need to capture just to ensure that when it comes to recertification, they have all of the data centralized within one ecosystem. And so that's tracking their water, waste, energy usage, as well as occupancy. Another example is Nourish. Amazing organization doing amazing work out in the community areas here. And they use our platform to track their creche. So they have teachers as well as field agents that use our mobile app to go and track what's happening at the creche, what food is being distributed, what is the nutritional value of that food, what are the demographics of the kids that they are helping. So really just quantifying what that impact is, and then all of that reports to the dashboard that you just saw. Another organization is Dulini. Again, they have operations in a few countries, but they use our platform, again, to track Sustainability 101, water, waste, energy. These are the three primary pillars. It does get more with regards to what data you can capture, and as well as them using our system to track occupancy levels, so that they can do the comparisons of occupancy compared to water, waste, energy consumption. Then a fun one, I know Angie's in the room, the Koru Collective. So they do a lot of great work with regards to supporting artisans and craftsmanship and community economic development programs. And so we're helping Angie and her team to create a traceable supply chain. So wherever the leather is procured from or the raw materials of the plant are procured from, that's a data collection moment. And then it goes to the community member, who is then going to be the craftsperson, who will then also data collection moment. And there are all these moments that will help Angie get visibility into her supply chain, so that eventually one day we'll have a QR code and you can scan that QR code for the product that you bought, and you will see this Impala skin came from this location, which is my bag that I'm wearing today. So really just helping establish the integrity of the brand, as well as supporting to tell the story of the Koru Collective. And then the same with Jabulani. You'll see the blend here of nonprofits and tourism. So just going back to the full circle, Jabulani again use our system to track their water, waste, energy, and specifically with them as well, we're helping them measure their carbon footprint in terms of the output of the data, so that they can know what their footprint is when it comes to their carbon assessments. And last but not least, again, I'm sure you are familiar with Koru Camps. So they use our platform, again, just in a very interesting way. It's so fun to see how these amazing brands get to use our tech, and personally it inspires me. But our Koru Camps take kids to give them environmental education in their camp for 3 days, and so they use our platform to do a pre and post assessment survey. So when the kids arrive, they want to measure their behaviors and their attitudes. So the teacher will go through the list and effectively interview the kids and understand, how do they feel about nature, conservation, are they scared of elephants? And then post the camp, they then do the same assessment. And effectively it's an A/B test, so that they can compare, have the kids' perspectives and attitudes changed towards nature? So again, just like, for me, it's super inspiring just to see how this all works. And we just have so much love and appreciation, because at the end of the day, Baotree as a tech company is only as good as the people that are using it, and how we can better their lives and make their work more visible to the world, to tell their stories. And now it gets a little bit interesting. So with the baobab tree, there's both roots and there are both branches. So we're branching out. We realize that not everyone understands what sustainability and impact is. And so this is where we've introduced a learning platform. So within a Tanda Tula, a Dulini, a Jabulani, there will be some people that know what water, energy, sustainability energy is, or management of waste is. But we've designed these short courses that will be free for access. And we effectively help people and guide them as to what is, I've just clicked on energy management as an example. It really is just the simple entry-level knowledge base of the 101, what is energy management? And in here, you go through the modules. There's different courses telling you what's a carbon footprint, what's a kilowatt hour, what is HVAC, which is the heating and ventilation systems and air conditioning. So like just really simple stuff that might not be simple to everyone. And then there's a little quiz that also pops up. So people can go through and learn what they're doing, what they're not doing, how they can improve. And so really just having a guided tutor through that process. And you might be familiar with Duolingo, but at the end there, we've got little badges. People love to earn badges, unlock games or rewards. So we've also integrated some gamification elements within Baotree. So really, what I'm now going to just present is I've shared the Duolingo part, and I'm now going to introduce, imagine Wikipedia meets LinkedIn. So this piece is another branch. We've called it living. So a living, breathing ecosystem where the problem that we recognize is that people have to go to a conference to be inspired as to what everyone else is doing and hear these other talks. But we want to create a digital community where individuals can, number one, have a resource library with regards to best practices, case studies, what's working, what's not working, but a forum and a place and a space where people can come and share and feature stories, feature heroes, what initiatives are working. And again, just trying to remove the silos that might exist and incentivize collaboration, but again, at scale. And this piece here is really just, again, showing the LinkedIn side. It's just a profile where people can connect with people. And again, just creating a space for people to connect and learn and share. And the fun part is that everything I've just walked you through now, from living, from learning, from Baotree's core product, this piece both freaks me out and at the same time excites me because we are stepping into the world of machines, into the world of AI. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of us in the room here either use Claude, Gemini, Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever it might be. I follow this news weekly. It freaks me out, quite frankly, as to how fast it's moving and how things are automated. So what kind of tech company would we be if we weren't adopting it? So I'd like to introduce everyone to Peer, our Planet Impact Agent. So Peer is going to be a guide, your technology guide, our client's technology guide, that from the point of entering our website, if you don't know anything about sustainability or impact, Peer is going to be there prompting you, questioning you, understanding you, helping you understand your operations and what you can start tracking today if you want to get to certification, or you want help to tell your story, or you want help to report to your shareholders, whatever it might be, Peer is going to be there throughout that journey. And so that's a piece where also when it comes to the insights, the analytics, not everyone is a data scientist. And I think this is going to be the most powerful part. I mean, as a data management company, we need to inspire intelligence. And so there's a couple of examples here where it's like, based on your last 30 days of data, I've identified 3 high-impact opportunities for your organization. Number 1, water usage is 12% above your green key target. Check Tuesday laundry cycles. Number 2, solar yield increased by 23%. You're on track for your Q2 targets. Or, I have just helped you with your community spend report, which is due. Please go review the draft before you send it to the rest of your team. We're building it, still freaks me out as to what this type of intelligence can do and help with, but we have to embrace it, and I think it's just going to help us be better, be smarter, and actually implement a lot faster for the changes that we need. So there's a lot of these eyes that are watching, and I'm going to pretend these are nature's eyes watching whenever we're looking at the hornbill, crested barbets, the wild dogs, the impalas, the duiker, which we've named Dolly, that lives outside our house. Nature's watching us, and personally I feel a large sense of responsibility because I have a roof over my head, I have access to the internet, I get to have 2, maybe 3 meals a day if I'm hungry. I have a family that loves me, a wife that adores me. We come from a place from privilege. And there's a sense of responsibility that this needs to come into the space of helping others understand that when it comes to doing something, it doesn't matter how big or small. And now I'm going into the world of acts of kindness. I know in our Hoedspruit Wildlife Estate group, people are saying there's too much speeding, there's too many dead road kills. How do we lessen that? Or when we are at the teller at Pick and Pay, it's fun to sometimes buy a chocolate and give it to the teller and see the smile on their face. So where I'm coming at is just when we come into this world and we respect and reflect that we get to live in Hoedspruit, in a place where we're connected with nature and we get to be at this environment to listen and learn, it comes from a place of privilege. And honestly, people always say, oh my gosh, this is potentially self-made, but there's really no such thing as self-made with anything that gets done. There's always a team behind everything that gets done. There's always a movement, there's always partners, there's clients, there's investors, there's a network, there's sweat equity that goes into building these things. I actually worked it out in the last 7 years. I've had 13,400 business calls. And the reality is that we're not doing it alone. And that's personally what gets me up every single day, is that there's a herd. There's a migration of people that are inspired to do something better, to help their business be more sustainable, or to measure their impact and make that a lot more tangible. And so, might be rambling at this point, but I just want to say thank you. Just thank you for coming out on this Tuesday night and giving me the opportunity to share what it is that we're up to at Baotree. And if you would like to learn more, we have a website and we have me here. And I guess I'm going to open the floor for questions and just say thank you. Thank you for coming. So what AI model are we using to measure sustainability? I was just told to repeat the questions for the film crew. God, thanks, Kyle.
It uses a lot of water, so I'm just curious.
So it does use a hell of a lot of water. Even our emails that we send have their own carbon footprint. So look, how respond is that we're using Anthropic, and they've just signed a deal with SpaceX, and effectively, I believe Elon's going to send all of the AI data centers into space, so that they'll have a renewable energy source from the sun. Now, I know I'm speaking a little bit into the future, but look, it's a fair question. The technology is there, it exists. And what helps me just sleep at night, even though knowing that these prompts, these tokens on every single AI call, I just believe that we're using it as a force for good compared to everything else that might not be in the same realm. And so whilst the technology catches up with how the energy usage or the water usage is to serve the data centers for the world of AI, that is a very big topic and a very big question. And so, yeah, we're using Anthropic, but adaptable to others as well. Thank you.
So let's say we have a bunch of Greta Kruger lodges using our app, and they all type in the level of their dams for whatever reason. And then you get approached by like an independent researcher, maybe someone doing their course at UCT about something to do with the water. Would you consider sharing? Obviously, you would have to ask your users, but would you not then share like literally the level of every single dam in the area? Like, you know what I mean? You're sitting on that data. Is there like maybe an opt-in on the app to make your stuff public, or is everything like super private? I don't know. I'm just wondering about that, because that seems like it could be super impactful for someone looking at the bigger picture of an area, especially for something like water levels, or I don't know how many elephants there are, etc., etc.
Thank you. So the question is around data sharing and consent, and if that were to happen at a large landscape level, how would that data be shared if someone wanted to have access to it? So number one, our clients, they have their own portal. All of the data they create, they own. So everything that is managed within that ecosystem, when it comes to data sharing at a landscape level, it would have to be purely consent-based. I mean, if UCT wanted to come to the Kruger and say to all the lodges using our platform, hey, would you be happy to opt in to sharing this particular data set, then that wouldn't necessarily be on Baotree, that would be on our clients kind of accepting. But we would be able to facilitate that opportunity should it arise. But yeah, when it comes to data sharing, I mean, our infrastructure sits on Amazon Web Services, and there's all of their encryption and their protocols that we follow and down to the T from a best practice point of view. So I hope that answers your question. There you go. Any others? Yes, Candice. So what other kind of companies beyond tourism and non-profits can use our system? So right now, EDF, the French energy company, they're busy deploying our system across South Africa around all of their large renewable solar farms and wind turbine projects, tracking their economic development, their social performance, environmental performance. So that's a corporate using us for their own sustainability field work. Then we've got someone like, I don't know, Maleka Kitchens or One Moment Foundation. These are non-profits, but they're CSR projects of larger corporates, and they do food distribution in Johannesburg. The other project, Maleka, is up in Kenya. But then there's agriculture, there's carbon projects, as well as currently disaster management. So in the Langa community down in Cape Town, they're actually using our system. There's about 60 women that have been trained to use our mobile app to go door to door in the informal settlement, to actually report fire hazards, to actually check if everyone's been trained, what are the ablution blocks like, really just disaster risk reduction around that infrastructure. So disaster management is another big piece of our work. And we're also trying to blend disaster management in the tourism space because there's going to be more floods, more fires. So we've got a whole bunch of free online resources and checklists that are also available to just help prepare, because there's a lot of fuel load is big at the moment within the Kruger land. So we can assume September there potentially fire hazards or before then. But yeah, we help people just understand all of that. Thank you. Time to grab a beer.
I've got a question. Just regarding the data itself, is there something online or on the app that you can, in terms of data curation? So you're getting data inputted from multiple people, presumably. So at what stage can you do that data curation, or is it only once it's kind of stored in the database?
So you said data curation.
So just checking that data is correct and not. So if someone's accidentally entered the wrong thing.
Got you. So right now, when someone logs something from the mobile app, it tags their location as well as having photographic evidence, a timestamp, and then there is an audit trail. So if someone is sitting in an office reviewing all the data coming in, has this stopped working? I know. And when that data is coming in, that person can see that, Carl, you've just submitted 3 tons worth of waste that's been collected for one lodge. That's not true. So that person can actually send a request edit back to you, and then you'll edit the data, and then that'll come back complete, but there will be an audit trail in the system. So you can't actually edit the data within Baotree, but you can push it back to the source for an edit, just to uphold the integrity on the platform. And then there will be layers of validation and verification. So we're also going to start working with Fair Trade Tourism. There's something called the Long Run, as well as GSTC, ATSA, all these member network associations and certification bodies, where they need certification once every 3 years. And we're going to become their partner to be real-time, always-on monitoring for operational efficiency at the destination level that will help these certification bodies scale. Because right now it's quite manual. Someone comes and audits, checks all the paperwork. It's normally a nightmare for the lodge. So really, we just want to try alleviate all those points. And so they'll also add a layer of third-party verification for the data that's collected in our system. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.